Hi, everybody. As you may know, this series is all about addressing the challenges that face property management companies and then talking with different people who are facing those issues, how they're handling those issues, and then what supplier partners they're bringing into the mix to help tackle those challenges. So today we are talking about reputation management, we're talking about resident feedback, and I have here today with us Danielle Johnson, who is Vice President of Marketing and Training at Bridge Property Management. And Danielle, we're just going to dig right into this. We're going to talk about both these aspects, and then we're going to talk about how you brought an opinion to help improve both of these processes. How does that sound?
Let's do it. I think reputation is one of my favorite topics, so let's go.
All right, love it. So let's just jump right into it. So as an owner-operator, when you acquire a property, you're also acquiring that property's baggage, right?
Yes.
All those years of reviews and ratings that are sit there now and they kind of weigh you down. So I really would love to hear, can you walk me through the process when you have a struggling property?
Yeah, no, and you know what? Some of it can be fun because at Bridge we do a lot of stuff. We really are wanting our residents to have great experiences with us from the time they move in to the time they move out. And the fun thing is with reputation is it's measurable. So if we acquire a property that doesn't have good Google scores, we can go and put our touch on it, which is stuff from, having great customer service. We do a ton of resident events. We took a lot of passion in being there for our residents. And then it's nice because we're able to measure and say, hey, we started this property at like a 2.3, and then 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, they're at a 4.0 with just doing what we do. So it can be challenging, especially if the property needs like a lot of Google reviews, but it also can be really fun and rewarding to see what happens.
I love that. So when you receive feedback, let's jump into the feedback aspect for a moment, because I'm really interested. When you receive feedback, how do you leverage that information? It's one thing to see, that on a dashboard, but how do you transition that information from feedback to an actual change at the property?
Yeah, so with using opinion, we've got our feedback and then our online reviews. So we look at both of those things heavily. The feedback we look as internal. So this is what we're finding out internally. This is what our residents are saying, not necessarily everything that's like out in Google world. So when we look at our feedback, it gives us a chance to say, hey, we are doing a great job on move-ins or we're not. And we need to make sure that this is, the way we're going and that it's great. So, for us, our feedback, we have in different categories. We do feedback for tours, move-ins, work orders, and move-outs. And then we're able to add some more feedback too, depending on what our goals might be. But it gives us a chance to really say where the great spots are and maybe where some focus needs to be. And we look at that monthly, quarterly. We look at it often. So we definitely want to see where our good places are and where we need to focus more.
So this is kind of off the cuff. I'm just curious, do you have a sense for the most common ways that communities are struggling? So when you see a community come in there with bad ratings and reviews, what are the most common things that you're seeing out there?
I would say, first of all, lack of communication. I think sometimes people just want to be heard. And once they're heard, I think, to be honest, like kind of going back on feedback, we have a rule that if there's a negative feedback, our manager is calling within 24 hours. And sometimes that person just wants to be heard. And once they're heard and you have that conversation, it's like, let's say it was a work order that didn't get done in a timely manner. And once we were able to communicate, hey, we are waiting for this part or this or that, you're able to solve it. And then a lot of times we've seen turn it into a positive review. So I think communication is the biggest thing, where if you're not doing it, you're kind of missing the boat.
Once they've talked to that resident, do they then go back and kind of give closure to the review so that everybody else who sees it then can see that they've chatted and there's some sort of resolution? Yeah,
we definitely encourage that. We definitely encourage that the resident goes and, hey, do you mind going and changing that Google review? But yeah, we definitely encourage that and have our residents try and do that. So you can't force them, but you can try with kind words and actions and encouragement.
So how do you set goals? So you're talking about like a company or community rather that starts off really in a rough spot, right? And I can imagine for some communities that have a ton of ratings and reviews out there, it
A mountain.
seems like insurmountable. Yeah, it's like how can we possibly get where we need to be? How do you set incremental goals so they feel like, hey, we can make it there to our end goal?
No, that's a great question. And, you definitely have to set SMART goals, because I can't say that, I can get 100 positive Google reviews in 1 month and let that be realistic for a lot of people. So you've got to set realistic goals. We have our regional managers work closely with our properties and saying, okay, you know what, for this month, let's have our goal be 30. Or 40, and let's do these different things to make sure that it's happening. I spoke about our resident events. We're super passionate about those. That's always a good time to, ask someone, hey, you seem like you're happy here. You always come to the pool parties or the paint nights or whatever. Do you mind leaving your experiences online? So that gives them that chance. But we continue with our goals even if the property is, let's say, 4.0 and above. We want to make sure that we're continuing to get those Google reviews. And so, a good goal would be 1 to 2 reviews a week, so that we're staying consistent with Google, help our SEO and all that.
How do you keep them motivated if that process is going to take a long time, and so they don't get discouraged in the meantime?
We talk about it all the time. That's one thing, we talk about it on our pricing calls, we talk about it at asset reviews, we talk about it on site visits. There's sometimes we'll do contests for our properties with ratings and reviews. We're definitely not ever bribing our residents, but we bribe our employees to say, hey, let's see what property can, through experiences and through asking, get the biggest increase on Google for the month. So we have done some contests like that, so keeps people motivated and competitive.
An opinion has their own score, right?
Yes. So opinion has their score, and I'm glad you asked that, because it's nice, because I always refer to that as our resident score. It's like a resident scorecard. So Google, we are taking over everything that was the past, and sometimes it's not pretty. And we've talked about that mountain. Sometimes we've got a mountain to climb, where it can be really motivating for a property manager to really focus on their opinion score, that resident score, and say, hey, we're to 4.5. Let's keep that going with our team. We're climbing up that Google, and we're keeping at that. And so it can be really encouraging, because it's saying, this is your residents now that we've had, and this is what they're telling us. So it's super, super motivating and helpful.
So it's more of a current snapshot.
Yes.
And then you have a mix of both. That's great.
Yep.
So when you're looking at your online reputation outside, we talked about Google a little bit. What are the main areas that you're looking at beyond Google reviews?
Yeah, so Google is our number one. We also put a big focus on apartments.com, Facebook, and then Yelp. Yelp is tricky. Everyone knows that. So we focus on Yelp, but it's definitely just with how it works. It's, I feel like we have more flexibility in requests for Facebook reviews or apartments.com reviews or Google versus Yelp, and just the manner that Yelp works.
So one of the things that Opinion helps with, I believe, is that they help create touch points with residents in different times.
Yep. And
how do you get the word out on that? And then also, do you feel like people can open up to somebody who's, if they have an issue, they don't feel comfortable maybe talking to the on-site team, but they can talk to somebody else about it? What's your opinions on that?
I'll answer the last part first. Yes, I think that people a lot of times are more, I'll answer to this instead of the property manager. And to be honest with you, we actually have our online reviews answered by a third party, just to take out the sensitivity that there might be with some negative reviews. So, our managers are always taking care of the in-person part, but sometimes the online stuff we have other sources. And we make sure that people know about Opinion. Hey, you're moving in, just so you know, we're going to send you a survey. We just want to make sure everything went great when you moved in. It's really important to us. Or, hey, just so you know, we have this great customer service program here at Bridge. We want to make sure that everyone is happy. We ask our residents on a regular basis. So communicating that, we've put it out on social, and we have flyers. in our offices, one, to remind our teams to talk about it, and two, so people are like, what is this email that I'm getting from Opinion? So they know, like, this is what it is.
That's awesome. So let's talk about tangible impacts. And because that's really ultimately, people want answers on, hey, I have this issue, how do I, how do I approach it? And then what type of results can we get? So if we dig into the operations side, how did working with Opinion impact how you ran your communities?
Well, it matters a lot because, again, I'll go back to that resident score, right? And so that's always really important. Whenever we have a property that's struggling, with being over marketing and training, have a path that I'm going to go on, starting looking at the property website. Does it look good? Then I'll look and see, is our team processing everything correctly? And, I kind of have a route that I'm going to, and then I'll look at Opinion and be like, well, this is what our residents are saying. We need to pick it up in these areas and definitely focus and get better. So we definitely look at it. And, we look at it too. We have it on our business intelligence. So it's a score that we're looking at on a regular basis. And once a year we do awards for our teams, and we look at those scores. We have maintenance awards at our leadership conferences, and we look in, how our work order scores on Opinion. And, those teams that are doing really great are the teams that are going to be rewarded at these events. So it's big.
I love that. Well, Danielle, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I love talking
I love the part where you're talking about how, just simple communication. We're so often missing that. And sometimes, it's just that uncomfortable aspect. We'd sometimes rather stick our head in the sand, right, than actually confront the issue.
Right?
But that's really where, that positive resident reaction can come from, by them knowing that we care and that we want to do our best. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. Everybody who's out there, we're going to be doing more of these. We're going to be digging into different aspects of property management, talking with different companies on how they are approaching these issues. So keep a lookout, and we will have more soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Brent.